So there's the motor in there. Looks pretty good. Got some good mounts in there, so it should be pretty solid. Trying to get the wiring under control now. We got to wire the starter of the alternator. Gotta get a hold of the pinouts for that particular reverse switch and find the spot to hook up the reverse wire, the backup light. And got to get a fuse, like a mega fuse or a big breaker, to run the power wires into the car. Mount that up. And we have a couple of sensors that we need to wire up for the water temp and the fuel oil pressure. What else? And then put the ignition in there, which is the MSD. Find a spot to mount that, and there's only a few wires to hook up on it, so hopefully that doesn't take forever. And then a timing advanced controller, which we're going to use. And he had to pull the sway bar, which was the factory sway bar from the wrecking yard, because the header was hitting on it. So for now, sway bar's gone. Get the exhaust and the intake manifold on there. And the radiator, got to wire the fan circuit, bring power into a relay to power the fan. So here we go. There is where the ignition's mounted, on the inside, up under the dash. And a timing controller tucked in there, and also the amplifier for the signal from the distributor. I'm not sure the terms of all the stuff, but the signal comes out from the distributor and runs into that. All the wires are tucked in, ran in, so it's going to look pretty good. Pretty much all the wires will disappear. And I showed him how to wire up a relay and a circuit for the fan, so he's going to get going on that. Finish wiring up the sensors for the oil pressure and water temperature. Distributor's been wired up. Got a fused block to distribute the power, between the stereo and the fuse block. Run a lead down to that. And still got fuel to do. Get the radiator cleaned up. The wires are sitting here for the starter. Run a lead down to that. Put some grounds on it. Here and there. Probably going to bend that tube down underneath that master cylinder probably. And need to have a filter somewhere too. But it's going to be low pressure now with the carburetors. So I'll probably just cut that off down there. Sneak up a fuel line to the carburetors instead of poking out right there in the middle of everything. Finish up hiding some of these wires. There's the wires for the coil. Coil still needs to be mounted, which it won't go in the stock spot because of the carburetors. And getting pretty close other than that, I think. Get some oil in it, oil filter. Bolt the exhaust up in there. Still got to mount the fuel pump underneath it. I'll show them how to do that. Wires are there already for it. So yeah, getting close, but still lots to do. You know, and then it's a matter of the carburetors and getting those things set up. That hasn't even been addressed, looked at, cleaned up, nothing. So that's a whole nother world right there. And as is, it don't fit up against the rain tray. So we'll be looking at different options as far as different way to filter the air, or getting rid of some of that rain tray, modify it, get rid of it, something. Got to find a banjo fitting for this side, and it's missing one of these white caps over here. Other than that, those are some cool carbs that I got off eBay. They're in good shape. It's the Italian made matching set. So that was a pretty good buy. This manifold I got off eBay. Kind of looks like a piece of crap, but we'll run it. If it gives us issues, then on to something else. Got to tap into that for the brake booster. Drill down in there and put some threads in there. So yeah, lots to do still. So here we are under the Scirocco, getting the fuel system figured out. Going to put the Carter fuel pump in there. That's the one seemed to be most recommended for the carburetor setup. High volume, low pressure, nice even. So we'll get that mounted under there. I got him squared away on that part. And then up front, really starting to get things kind of narrowed down. Still quite a short laundry list of things to do. And you know, clutch, run a couple more wires, get it ground. Couple grounds for the motor. He's got the radiator, you know, the shroud And the tanks and all that cleaned up, so that'll look nice in there. And the wiring is pretty much all done, except a couple of the main wires need to be finished up, I think. And get the exhaust hooked up, get the fuel up here, put the radiator in, finish up the wiring, and start putting the carbs on there and see if this thing will fire. So, looking good. Take 4. Okay, three things. Had the fuel lines hooked up to the wrong tube, the one going through the vent, the return, rather than the one that was hooked up from the pumps. Forgot to cut the wires on the MSD ignition. And, you know, to make it a difference between the 8-cylinder, 6-cylinder, and the 4-cylinder. And then the timing on the head, you know, I was guessing. There's the mark here, and I was going from the back side. Needs to go from the front, so the cam is 180 off too, so there's no way this thing would have ran. So we'll get all that stuff swapped over, try it again. Junk wire.
Supposed to.
So yay, it runs. It's pretty lean, so we're gonna have to get probably just get a kit with some different jets. We'll get the carburetors tuned in. Other than that, I had a problem with the oil pressure gauge, got that working. The water temperature gauge is not working yet, so we'll have to figure that out. Got a couple water leaks, few minor things.